Hey church, I hope this video finds you enjoying all the joy and peace of the season after Easter. Happy Eastertide. I have put off making this movie until the literal last day, the last work day before I go on writing leave because I just didn't want to do it. The MLT asked me to make this movie back in February and I just procrastinated because I didn't want to. Because this movie is about money and about a financial situation at Galileo Church that I hate talking about. In part because I don't like to bring anxiety to people that I love, in part because it always feels self-interested for the pastor to talk about money in a church because we are always the biggest line item in the budget, and in part because I know a lot of y'all are completely burned out on institutions and not entirely trusting that institutions will do the best work with your resources. And I get all of that, and so I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings. It's not really in my nature to want to do that. And yet, I am convinced, as is the missional logistics team, that we haven't really been upholding our end of the no bullshit bargain. We've been keeping to ourselves a lot of the stress and worry about money at Galileo and not sharing that widely with everyone. So we're sorry for that. And it really is time that we develop more transparency around finances in our church so that everybody is working kind of with the same information about how we're doing ministry and how we're paying for ministry. It came to our attention in January of this year that we didn't have enough money to make payroll for our staff and pay the rent. Like we could do one or the other, but we couldn't do both. And we were able to cobble together a solution to that problem, and indeed everybody got paid and the rent got paid, and that's fine. But it alerted us to the fact that we need to do better tracking and better reporting about finances in our church. And so that's what I'm doing. This is my attempt to start to do that for y'all. I don't want you to be worried about the survival of the church right this second. There have been seasons where we have worried about the survival of Galileo Church, but this is not one of those. I just want to begin a new habit of telling the truth about how things are going financially so that you'll have all the information that you need. I think the main thing to say about money in Galileo is that we do a lot of ministry with not very much money. We're incredibly frugal. If you've ever been part of an institution before, you know that $180,000 a year, which is our whole annual budget, is really not a lot of money for the amount of ministry we're doing. So I'm really proud of that, and I think our whole church should be excited and happy about that. I think this is the way Jesus did ministry. Not a lot of money, not a lot of resources, but a lot of lives being impacted. So basically in the last few months, our church has started a kind of justice revolution at ACU, that university in Abilene. We're not the ones sustaining that, getting justice for LGBTQ people, but we are the ones basically who started it. And so I've never been a part of anything that important in my whole ministry career, so I'm really stoked about that. And I'm equally excited about this justice initiative in Mansfield School District to get protections for LGBTQ persons written into the policies for students and employees of the district. That effort is going to take a good long time, but Galileo Church so far is the community organizing hub for that work, and I'm really proud of that too. We have a number of peer-to-peer support groups that are going on at Galileo Church. Thrive, Welcome to My Brain, GPS, a new group starting soon for God parenting and support. We have G-Craft and GD&D, and Little G is starting up this Sunday again, an education program for preschoolers during worship. All those things are amazing, and I can't say enough thanks to the people who come up with those ideas and then actually follow through to make some of that stuff happen. Thank you, thank you, thank you to people who are doing those things. The same with those of you who are hosting and facilitating G groups. Eating and drinking together is one of the most important things that we do at Galileo Church, and we're doing that more and more all the time with more and more people sharing life together, and that's important too. And of course, there's worship every Sunday, beautiful and true, that we just keep pouring resources into, lots of energy, lots of time going into making that a great experience, so that we glorify God and so that we get from that a kind of nourishment as we do this rehabilitative theology in our liturgy, in our worshipful work together. It's all good. All of that stuff is so incredible. All of that stuff costs money, in addition to the time and energy and ideas and prayers and sweat that a lot of you put into it. It takes money. We know that it takes about $10,000 a month for us to just pay our basic expenses like rent and payroll. And then another $5,000 a month or so is what we budgeted to do ministry with. And that's a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot, and it's consistent. And the ways that we get money from outside sources through grants and fundraising and stuff doesn't always work in accordance with our cash flow issues. So things get complicated and a little bit sticky sometimes. So here's what the missional logistics team is proposing to do in the months to come to try and shore up our financial situation at Galileo. One is, as I said, we're going to be practicing more transparency with the church. Please don't imagine that we just want the church to get bigger and richer, and so we're going to talk about money more. We don't have any plans to buy any property or build a building or do any of that stuff. We just want to keep doing this great ministry we do. So we want to begin giving quarterly reports to all the church through the G groups and other gatherings to say where we are financially, what we've done with the money you've already shared, and the good work that we believe God is calling us to in seasons to come. So maybe by video, we'll be sending out quarterly reports and asking the church to discuss those reports in various settings. The MLT has formed an income stream task force to look at all the ways we get money in our church, not just the local giving from people who actually show up to do life with us, but in other ways too. So we've got people working on renting out the barn for parties and quinceañeras and stuff like that. We've got a group working on cultivating the non-local givers, all those people who send us money in support of our ministry throughout the year. And we've got a team working on some really innovative ideas like this big yard sale that we're going to have in May. I hope you've begun to hear a little bit about that. In all these ways, we're trying really hard to make sure that we're shoring up all the different ways that God might give us what we need to do this ministry. Does that make sense? Exploring lots of avenues, lots of opportunities. But when it comes right down to it, what Galileo Church really needs for its own long-term health and sustainability is for local givers, that is, people who actually come to church here in any form, Bible and beer, G group, worship, karaoke parties, whatever is the thing where you mostly connect with Galileo. We need for those people to be giving all the money we need to do ministry. And that's our long-term goal. That's what we really want. And so toward that end, we're trying to remove as many barriers as we can for how people share money. We've started now receiving donations on Venmo. We're exploring a couple other opportunities to make that work. Those ways, those modes of giving are in the e-newsletter every week, and we're getting them more and more clear on our website and in the actual worship space, which is where a lot of people give money. We want to make sure that people who come only to G groups are aware that they can share resources with Galileo, and that would be really helpful to the sort of perpetuation of all this good ministry that we love doing together. So help us if there are barriers in the way of your giving to Galileo Church that we could do something about. Let us know. Tell us how you prefer to share money, and we'll work on making that a possibility at Galileo as well. Here's what we're really hoping you'll do in response to this video. It's about three things, I guess. One is that it would really be lovely if by the end of this year, we could say that pretty much every person at Galileo Church is a giver. Like everybody here is contributing actual money. Yes, I know we give lots of other things too, but right now we're talking about money. Sorry. Everybody a giver. I'm not sure if you are aware that we receive gifts every single week, as little as $1, $5, $10, and that we are thrilled to receive those gifts, because you don't get to be a more and more and more generous giver if you don't start at whatever level is possible for you right this second. You know what I mean? You're never going to be $100 a week giver if you didn't start somewhere. So what I'm hoping for is that in the next weeks and months, everybody at Galileo Church will feel empowered to share in the financial responsibility for getting this ministry done. So work on that, would you please? I started working on my own giving when I was very young and had very little money. I just want to testify to you that I've never been broke because I gave too much. That has never happened. And so I'm encouraging you to find a way in your own budget to share in that. And, honestly, just to prove people wrong who say that, You can't make a church out of young adults and spiritual refugees because they won't give any money to support the institution. I would love to disprove that myth about us. If you are a giver already at Galileo Church, thank you for that. I want to encourage everybody to think about making that as consistent as possible. A lot of us are in the habit of giving when we're at worship, but our lives are very, complex now. Not everybody makes it to worship every single Sunday. And if you're waiting until you can be present and you also happen to have some money to give, that's not going to be very consistent sharing. And so I'm wondering whether you can think of how in your own finances you could make a plan to be a regular, consistent giver at Galileo. That would be the single biggest factor, I think, in impacting our financial health going forward. And then finally, and I mean this sincerely, this is not just like the tag on to the end of a long talk. I really, really hope that you'll join the leadership of the church in praying about this and really praying about it in a way that makes you pay attention. Like, pay attention to the reports that we issue, the things we say we're doing, pay attention to the ministry that we do, and how it gets funded, how it gets resourced. Be alert to that reality in the life of our church. I think the more of us that are alert to it, the more of us that are praying about it as a real thing, I think it will just become we're bound to get healthier by paying more attention to it more of the time. So please join in that with us so that I don't feel like I'm the only one, or the MLT or the the treasurer of the MLT doesn't feel like she's the only one who's paying attention. This really can be a group effort of us all sort of having each other's backs on this. If this conversation about money in church is triggery for you, if you came from a church where they were always, browbeating you to open your wallet and give more, or if you just have problems trusting that the institution is going to do the right thing with your hard-earned resources, I get that. And I just want to encourage you to let this go. Please don't let this be like your last memory of me before I went on writing leave, okay? Know for real that you will always be welcome at Galileo Church. If you're seriously broke, you'll be welcome at Galileo Church. If you're just seriously not ready to trust us that much, you will still be welcome at Galileo Church. And that's going to be all right. We're not keeping track of giving in that way, not in such a way as to judge people and their sort of worthiness to be with us. In fact, I feel it as a personal part of my vocation to earn the trust of the people who dare to cross the threshold of Galileo Church. So give us time to earn that trust if that is what is still lacking for you, okay? We're going to be working on that as we have been all the time. Please know that it is a commitment of the pastoral staff and the missional logistics team to never abandon the missional priorities that we believe we've been given by God. It is not in our nature to scale back ministry, to say, well, if we only had more money, we could do more things. That's just not the way we've been operating, and we don't intend to go that direction. So we're committed to this work. We've been called to this work, and we actually believe that God is going to provide the resources we need to get the work done. Join us in that belief, in that level of trust, if you will. Indeed, we've got plans to expand ministry in the months and seasons to come, and the plans don't make any fiscal sense. They don't make mathematical sense, and we're just going to do it anyway. God has always been trustworthy to us in these matters. So thanks, church, for letting me do ministry alongside each of you. It is the great joy and pleasure of my life. I'm going to miss you for these weeks when I'm doing another thing sort of in our best interest, I hope. And I hope to be in ministry alongside each of you for many, many years to come. Many years to come. Yeah, many. It's only for the glory of God, all these things, including this hard talk about money, which I'm imagining now neither of us have enjoyed. Maybe that's okay. Maybe some of the best things in life are not always the easiest things. Thanks. Much love. Peace.